The smell of grilled meat and the murmur of dinner conversation filled Romano's steakhouse as our extended family gathered around the large corner table. Saturday dinners at Romano's had been a tradition for 15 years, a weekly display of family unity that Mom orchestrated with military precision. Tonight felt different though. Heavier. I'd been dreading this conversation for 2 weeks, ever since Dr. Martinez had delivered the diagnosis that changed everything. "Emma, you look tired," Aunt Carol observed, cutting into her ribeye. "Are you sleeping enough? You can't let work stress age you prematurely." I touched my scalp self-consciously. The hair loss had started 3 days ago, subtle at first but becoming more noticeable. The baseball cap felt foreign on my head but necessary. "She's always been dramatic about every little sniffle," my sister Rachel declared from across the table. At 31, Rachel worked as a nurse practitioner and considered herself the family's medical authority. Remember when she claimed that headache was a brain tumor? Turned out to be dehydration. "That was 10 years ago," I said quietly. "And I was 16. "Same pattern though," Rachel continued, addressing the table rather than me. "Emma's always needed to be the center of attention somehow." Uncle Bob nodded sagely while buttering his bread. "Some people just have that personality type. Drama queens, you might call them." Mom smiled approvingly at Rachel's assessment. "That's why we're so proud of Rachel's medical training. She keeps things in perspective, helps us not overreact to every minor health complaint." I took a breath, knowing I couldn't postpone this conversation any longer. "Actually, I need to tell everyone something important. I've been seeing an oncologist." "An oncologist?" Rachel's fork clattered against her plate. "Emma, for God's sake, you don't just go see cancer doctors because you're tired. That's not how medicine works." "I didn't choose to see him," I replied carefully. "My primary care doctor referred me after some concerning test results." "What kind of test results?" Rachel demanded with the authority of someone who'd completed 3 years of nurse practitioner training. "Blood work showed some irregularities. Then a CT scan revealed." "CT scan?" Rachel laughed, but it sounded harsh. "Nobody orders CT scans for fatigue, Emma. You're either lying about the symptoms you told your doctor, or you're doctor shopping until someone takes your hypochondria seriously." The table went quiet. 8 pairs of eyes focused on me, some concerned, others skeptical. "I'm not lying," I said steadily. "Dr. Martinez at City General referred me for additional testing because—" "Martinez?" Rachel's voice sharpened. "I know him. He's way too conservative, orders unnecessary tests to cover his liability. Classic defensive medicine." Dad set down his wine glass. "So what exactly are you claiming this time, Emma?" The question stung because of its phrasing. Claiming, not experiencing or facing. "Stage 2 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma," I said quietly. The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then Rachel burst into bitter laughter. "Lymphoma? Seriously, Emma? You're going to claim you have cancer now?" "I'm not claiming anything. I'm telling you what the biopsy confirmed." "Biopsy?" Mom's voice carried that familiar edge of embarrassment. "Emma, honey, you can't just walk into hospitals demanding biopsies. That's not how real medicine works." Rachel leaned forward, her nurse practitioner credentials giving her confidence. "Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma presents with very specific symptoms. Night sweats, unexplained weight loss, enlarged lymph nodes. You don't have any of those." "Actually, I do. The weight loss started 3 months ago and the night sweats." "You've always been thin," Aunt Carol interrupted. "And everyone sweats in summer." "This is different," I insisted. The oncologist explained. "Stop." Mom's voice cut through the restaurant noise like a blade. "Just stop this right now." The conversations at nearby tables continued, but our corner had fallen into tense silence. Mom's face was flushed with what I recognized as public embarrassment, the same expression she'd worn when I'd thrown up during my cousin's wedding reception. "Emma," Mom said in the carefully controlled voice she used when correcting me in public, "I don't know what kind of attention you're seeking, but this cancer story is inappropriate and hurtful." "It's not a story." "Of course it's a story," Rachel snapped. "Do you have any idea how insulting it is to people who actually have cancer? My nursing background has shown me real cancer patients, Emma. They don't sit in restaurants casually announcing diagnoses over dinner." Uncle Bob cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Maybe we should change the subject." This is getting a bit heavy for family dinner. No, Mom said firmly. We need to address this behavior. Emma's been pulling these medical drama stunts since she was a teenager, and we've enabled it by not calling her out directly. Dad nodded slowly. Your mother's right. The mysterious illnesses, the urgent doctor visits that never amount to anything. It's become a pattern. What pattern? I asked, genuinely confused. Senior year, you claimed to have mono to get out of finals week, Rachel listed. 2 years ago you swore that stomach pain was appendicitis, turned out to be gas. Last Christmas you thought that mole was melanoma. The mole was examined by a dermatologist who said it was nothing, Rachel finished triumphantly. Just like this cancer story will be nothing once you stop doctor shopping and face reality. Cousin Mike, who'd been quiet until now, leaned back in his chair. I have to admit, Emma, this does seem pretty extreme. Cancer's a serious thing to joke about. I'm not joking about anything. Then prove it, Rachel challenged. Show us medical records. Give us Dr. Martinez's contact information so we can verify this story. The request hung in the air like smoke. Around us, other families laughed over their meals, unaware of the tension consuming our table. I can't share medical records with everyone, I said carefully. Privacy laws. Privacy laws? Rachel's laugh was sharp. You're claiming to have a life-threatening disease but you can't prove it? How convenient. Mom sighed dramatically. This is exactly what we're talking about, sweetheart. Real cancer patients don't hide behind privacy excuses when their family wants to help. They also don't make dinner announcements, Aunt Carol added helpfully. Cancer patients are usually too sick to sit in restaurants making dramatic declarations. I looked around the table at faces that ranged from skeptical to openly hostile. These were the people who were supposed to support me through the hardest thing I'd ever faced. You don't understand, I said quietly. The treatment starts next week. Chemotherapy. I wanted you all to know because... Chemotherapy. Rachel's voice pitched higher. Emma, you can't just decide you need chemo because you read about cancer symptoms online. These are serious medications with severe side effects. I know that. Dr. Martinez explained. Dr. Martinez is being manipulated by a patient with factitious disorder, Rachel announced to the table with clinical authority. Emma's presenting symptoms that mimic various diseases to get medical attention. Dad frowned. Is that a real thing? Absolutely. People with psychological issues sometimes fabricate medical emergencies. It's actually more common than you'd think, especially in people with attention-seeking personalities. The words hit me like physical blows. My own sister was diagnosing me with a psychological disorder to explain away my cancer. That's not what's happening, I said weakly. Then where are your test results? Rachel pressed. Your lab reports? Your pathology findings? Real cancer patients carry documentation because treatment requires constant monitoring. I reached for my purse then stopped. The medical records were there. CT scans showing enlarged lymph nodes, biopsy results confirming malignant cells, blood work revealing the telltale markers Dr. Martinez had explained in careful detail. But I realized something that made my stomach drop. Nothing I could show them would matter. Rachel had already decided I was lying, and the family trusted her medical opinion more than my lived experience. The fact that you're hesitating proves my point, Rachel continued. Real cancer patients don't have to think about whether they can prove their diagnosis. Mom reached across the table and patted my hand with condescending gentleness. Honey, we know you're going through a difficult time. Maybe you're feeling overlooked or unimportant. But making up serious illnesses isn't the way to get attention. We love you, Dad added. But this cancer story needs to stop right now. My phone buzzed against my leg. A text from Dr. Martinez's office confirming Monday's chemotherapy appointment. The irony wasn't lost on me. Receiving real medical communications while my family accused me of fabricating my illness. I think, Rachel announced to the table, Emma needs professional help. Psychological evaluation, maybe therapy to address these attention-seeking behaviors. The murmurs of agreement around the table felt like a verdict being rendered. I was staring at my untouched steak, trying to process my family's complete rejection of my diagnosis, when a familiar voice spoke from behind me. Emma? Emma Reeves. I turned to see Dr. Harrison, the hospital president and chief of oncology at City General. He was dressed casually in slacks and a polo shirt, clearly off-duty, but his presence commanded immediate attention. Dr. Harrison, I managed, surprised to see him outside the hospital setting. How are you feeling? Still experiencing the fatigue we discussed. His medical tone was gentle but professional, the way oncologists spoke when monitoring treatment responses. The table went completely silent. Rachel's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Some better, I replied carefully, aware that 8 family members were hanging on every word. The new medications are helping with the nausea. Dr. Harrison nodded approvingly. Good to hear. Pre-chemo medications can make a significant difference in patient comfort. Are you here with family? Yes, I said quietly. This is my family. Dr. Harrison's eyes swept the table, taking in the tense faces and untouched plates. His expression shifted subtly, the change from casual conversation to professional assessment. Family, he repeated slowly. I see. He looked directly at Rachel. Are you the sister who works in healthcare? Emma mentioned having medical professionals in her family. Rachel's face had gone pale. I'm a nurse practitioner. Excellent. Then you understand the importance of family support during oncology treatment. Emma's case is particularly challenging. Stage 2 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma requires aggressive intervention, but her prognosis is quite good with proper adherence to the chemotherapy protocol. The color drained completely from Rachel's face. Mom found her voice first. Excuse me, doctor, but there seems to be some confusion. Emma doesn't actually have cancer. She's been telling stories. Dr. Harrison's eyebrows rose slowly. The expression on his face shifted from professional courtesy to something much colder. Stories, he repeated. She's been claiming to have lymphoma, Dad explained quickly. We think she's having some psychological issues, maybe needs attention. I'm sorry, Dr. Harrison interrupted, his voice taking on the authoritative tone he used when addressing medical residents. Are you suggesting that I've been treating your daughter for a cancer she doesn't actually have? The table fell into absolute silence. Because I can assure you, Dr. Harrison continued, that City General's oncology department doesn't operate on patient fantasies. We require pathological confirmation before beginning treatment protocols. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through what appeared to be medical records. Emma's biopsy results from November 15 confirmed diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. Stage 2A to be precise. Her lactate dehydrogenase levels were elevated at 480, and the PET scan showed involvement of mediastinal and retroperitoneal lymph nodes. Rachel made a small choking sound. Her treatment plan includes 6 cycles of R-CHOP chemotherapy, beginning this Monday at 8 a.m. I'll be personally overseeing her care because her age and health history suggest an excellent chance of complete remission. Dr. Harrison's gaze moved around the table, settling on each family member with clinical precision. I'm curious, he continued, his voice carrying the weight of 30 years in oncology. What exactly made you believe your daughter was fabricating a cancer diagnosis? As a medical professional, he looked directly at Rachel, surely you understand that cancer doesn't require family approval to exist. The silence stretched unbearably. We thought. Mom started then stopped. You thought what? That she was doctor shopping until someone agreed to give her chemotherapy for fun? That she somehow convinced our pathology department to falsify biopsy results? Dr. Harrison's voice grew colder with each word. She's always been dramatic about medical issues, Rachel whispered. Dramatic. Dr. Harrison repeated the word like it tasted bitter. Your sister has a potentially fatal disease and you call her dramatic for seeking treatment. He turned his attention back to me. Emma, are these the family members you mentioned wanting to include in your treatment discussions? The ones you hoped would provide emotional support during chemotherapy? I couldn't find words to respond. Dr. Harrison looked around the table one more time, his expression shifting from professional disappointment to something approaching disgust. Let me be clear about something, he said, his voice carrying across our corner of the restaurant. Emma's cancer is not only real, it's aggressive. Without treatment, her 5-year survival rate would be approximately 15%. With the chemotherapy protocol we're implementing, that jumps to 90%. He paused to let those statistics sink in. But survival isn't just about medical treatment. It's about having support systems that don't actively undermine a patient's mental health during the most challenging period of their life. The words hung in the air like an indictment. Emma, Dr. Harrison continued, I think we should discuss adjusting your emergency contact information. Clearly, some changes are needed. Dr. Harrison left after giving me his personal cell number and promising to have the hospital social worker contact me about support resources. The table remained silent for several minutes after his departure. Finally, Rachel spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. Emma, we didn't know. Yes, you did, I replied quietly. I told you everything Dr. Harrison just confirmed. The difference is that you believed him because he has authority you respect. Mom's hands shook as she reached for her water glass. We can talk about this. Figure out how to help. Help. I looked around the table at faces that now showed panic instead of skepticism. An hour ago you were diagnosing me with psychological disorders. Now you want to help. We made a mistake, Dad said desperately. We can fix this. Uncle Bob cleared his throat uncomfortably. Maybe we should get the check. Good idea, I agreed, standing up. I have a chemotherapy appointment Monday morning. I'll be spending the next 6 months fighting for my life, but at least I won't have to fight my own family anymore. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. You can't just cut us out. We're your family. Family supports each other through cancer, I replied. Family doesn't call terminal illness attention-seeking in public restaurants. As I gathered my purse and jacket, I could see other diners watching our table with obvious concern. Dr. Harrison's voice had carried, and our family's humiliation was now public knowledge. The hospital has excellent support groups, I told them, for cancer patients who don't have reliable family systems. Turns out it's more common than you'd think. Mom started to speak, but I held up my hand. Don't call unless you're prepared to apologize for accusing me of fabricating cancer for sympathy. And Rachel, maybe consider that 3 years of nursing school doesn't make you qualified to dismiss oncology diagnoses. I left them sitting in stunned silence at the table they turned into a courtroom. Through the restaurant windows I could see them huddled together, probably planning damage control strategies. But some damage couldn't be controlled. Some words, once spoken, revealed truths that changed everything. My cancer would likely be cured within a year. My relationship with my family, however, had a much worse prognosis. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Harrison. Support group meets Thursdays at 7 p.m. You're not alone in this. For the first time in weeks, that felt completely true.